Hello and welcome back to my channel. So it's been a while since I have filmed one of these. I have not done a TBR game in such a long time because I have been a little bit in a reading slump. I want to say more in a life slump. I haven't done much of anything that I wanted to do for myself, but part of this was filming videos, editing videos, preparing them for you guys, and also just reading in general. The last TBR game video that I filmed was actually for the month of April, and in April I read a couple of these books, then in May I read a couple more of these books, and then finally in June, which is now, I have just now finished this TBR, which was not that big, but I did read a couple more books than were on that list, outside of that list basically, throughout these 3 months. I haven't read that much though, and especially in this month, so let me just tell you very quickly what these books were. So the first one was The Sanatorium by Sarah Pearse, and I did read that book, but I didn't love it. I did finish it, it wasn't great for me. I think I ended up rating it 2.5/3 stars. Then I also read Ring Shout, which is a novella, and this is a fantasy horror. It's not that much horror, it kind of gives me more like Buffy types of vibes, if that makes sense. So this is that style, but set in a world where the KKK has actual members that are real demons disguised as human beings, and our main character has magical sword and stuff and battles them with her friends. This was really fun. I think I rated it 5 stars, maybe 4, I'm not sure, but I did really enjoy it, so happy with this one. Then I had Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. This was part of a video where I read 3 contemporary books, and I did not like this one. It was really disappointing because I loved the first 2 chapters and I was really invested in it and was thinking I'm gonna love this book, and then I ended up DNFing it because it just, the writing style, the dialogues, everything felt very gimmicky and a little bit too much for me in a way that I couldn't follow most of what was going on, and I just couldn't grow any more attached to the characters. Like, they just weren't great to follow, especially with the dialogues that they were having. It was just really strange, and yeah, you'll know more when you watch my video that should be already out, because I think I'm gonna put this video after. So the video where I'm talking about my 3 contemporary novels that I've been reading, including this one, should be out already, so you should be able to watch this. Then I had Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha and Gan, and I did just finish this one literally yesterday and enjoyed myself so much reading it. I ended up rating it 5 stars, so really loved this one. This is a YA fantasy novel, so set in a completely fantasy different world, inspired by Asian culture, and our main character Lei is a girl who gets taken from her village to become a paper girl, so a concubine, forced sex slave pretty much, to the Demon King, along with 7 other girls. And obviously a lot happens, but there's also a bit of a gay romance in there that I really enjoyed. So this book, 5 stars, really loved it. Don't know if I'm gonna read the sequel just yet because I'm not that intrigued by the summary, the synopsis of it, but we'll see. That was a success though. Finally, I had this one, The Deck of Omens, which is a sequel to The Devouring Grey, and it's also YA fantasy, but set more in a contemporary world where we have fantasy elements happening. I did enjoy the first book that I read of the series and I really wanted to read the sequel. I have not got into it yet, but I just started reading it. I'm like literally 5 pages in, but I'm gonna continue reading it and probably will finish it before this video is published because I still have a week before the end of the month, so that's what I'm hoping for. So if it's your first time here, this is the TBR game that I tend to play. It's based loosely off Cards Against Humanity because I do have 2 sets of cards in this game. One is question cards, so like sentences that have a blank somewhere, and the other half of the pack is made of the answer cards, so what I can use to fill in the blanks. And when I have a combination of these 2 cards, that's my prompt, and I have to decide on a book to read from that prompt. This is a game that I did design myself, as in made the design of it, the look and feel of it, although I'm not the only one who's made games based off Cards Against Humanity, so do search around and have a look at all the other amazing people who have created amazing games for this. This is just the one that I wanted to play because I don't play many board games and the only one that I own is actually Cards Against Humanity. So this is the pack for it, and at the back I have the rules. And these are the question cards, that's the back of them, and the front looks like this, with questions like these. The back of the answer cards is yellow, and the front looks like this. So for instance, these two together would be an adult novel that is a 5-star prediction for me. And then I would have to find a book in my TBR, so all the books that I own that I haven't read yet, that is a 5-star prediction for me. So what I'm going to be doing is give myself a deck of answer cards. I'm going to pick 4, because I don't want to give myself too many books to read since I'm just coming out of a big reading slump that's lasted 2.5 months, and I just want to make things easy for myself, especially since I think I'm going to have a few books that may come in that I'm going to read, you know, outside of my TBR list. For instance, there's a book that I think my brother wants to read once he's done with some exam he's studying for, and when I do, I might not put it in my TBR and just have it outside, so as on top of my TBR list. However, if I manage to fit in one of my prompts a book that I already plan on reading outside of my TBR list, for instance that book that me and my brother want to read together, then I will extend my list to another card and make it 5 books instead of just 4. Also, I will always have a hand that is at least 4 cards, so whenever I use one, I will replace it with a new one. Okay, so my first one is Out of Fear of Missing Out. So that could be a book that I've bought that way, basically. Then I have I Almost Got Rid Of. So that would be if I almost unhauled this book, or I might just have a look at all the very old books that have been on my shelves for ages that I've been like, should I put it in an unhaul video or not, if I end up with this card. Then this one, which is the lowest rated on my TBR, so I think I would need to go into Goodreads for that and check what the ratings are. And then finally, is set in the past, so a historical one. Could be fantasy historical though. Ooh, I have a couple that could match that. Cool. So this is my hand, and now I'm gonna pick my first question card. Okay, so my first question is a young adult novel that which? What could work with this? I'm gonna have a look at what is the lowest young adult novel that I have on my TBR first. Okay, so on this list, here's the books that come up from my TBR. And you can see the lowest one at the very top is If I Disappear. If that's a YA novel, that'd be great, because that's also part of my most anticipated thrillers that I want to read, which is a video that is ongoing. Okay, no, it's considered adult fiction. I'm just checking now on the Goodreads website, and it's not young adult, unfortunately. Okay, let me check the next one. So this is where I am at in my list. So I've just gone from this, gone down, all of these are adults, and then finally arriving at the initial insult. And if not, So Kill Girls is 100% YA as well. So I think I might be able to fit this in. So I'm going to be using this prompt, a young adult novel that is the lowest rated on my TBR. And the book that I have picked for this is The Initial Insult by Mindy McGuinness, and this is what the cover looks like. It's also one of my anticipated read that I bought this year, so really recent as well. And I don't know, I was quite excited by the synopsis of it. This is what the spine looks like, which I think is pretty cool. So we're following, I think, 2 main characters. The first one is Tress Montour, and she basically lost her family. So while she was driving her best friend home 7 years ago, her parents disappeared and she basically lost everything. And she now lives with her drunk grandfather, who is working or like owns a white trash zoo, according to the locals. Then the other character is her ex-best friend, Felicity Tornado, and it says here that she's got it all, looks, money and secret, blah blah blah. And basically Tress decides to, at some Halloween costume party at an abandoned house, to try and get the truth out of her ex-friend Felicity, because she decides to pry the truth from Felicity brick by brick as she slowly seals her former best friend into a coal chute. Tress will have her answers or settle for revenge. That is pretty much the last sentence in the synopsis of this, which made me really excited because it just sounds completely mental. So that is the book I'm going to be reading, the first one on my TBR list for this month. So let me replace this card with another one. Without knowing much about the story, that's going to be an easy one because I buy a lot of books that I'm kind of like, oh, that sounds vaguely cool, and then I never really remember what the synopsis was about, so there's so many on that list that would fit. Next, a book I have, okay. A book I have Well, that could be out of fear of missing out. So basically a book that I would have bought on the basis that everyone else is reading it and I should also read it, even though I might not actually like it. A book I have without knowing much about the story, that would also work. Or I guess we could tweak the sentence slightly and say a book I have almost gotten rid of, because I have this one that's like I almost got rid of. So let's see what I've got. Okay, I think I'm going to use this prompt. A book I have out of fear of missing out. And the reason why is I have this novella called Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon McGuire that everyone and their mother has read and talked about on BookTube and Bookstagram. And I also have a friend who's read it and told me so much good stuff about it, that she loved the series. And this is also a novella, so it's quite short and it's going to make it easy for me to read more books this month. And I'm quite excited to read it because I do think that I'm going to enjoy that type of story. This is basically fantasy and it's happening in I think a school of some sort, I think, where it's all children who have gone to another world. So think Alice in Wonderland or the children from Narnia, the fact that they've gone to another world and come back. So this school only caters to these type of children. And I think each story of the series focuses on a different child or different children from this series. So it does sound like every book is going to be a slightly different story and not just be like following the same story, which I think would annoy me because I think it's quite a big series. So yeah, I am excited to read this one. And it does fit in one of my themed videos because I am filming one that is basically reading just a bunch of novellas. So I'm going to pick another card on top of my card to replace my fourth one. So I'm going to have a 5-card hand now. Yeah. So my 2 new cards are going to be has a title in 2 words and oh, that's really funny. I did shuffle this, I promise, but the other one has a title in 4 or more words. So we'll see what happens. My next question is a cover that which I think could work with the title ones actually. Yeah, it doesn't really work with anything else. Okay, I know exactly what I'm gonna pick for this. I'm gonna pick the prompt that says a cover that which has a title in 2 words, because there's a brand new book on my shelves that fits this prompt perfectly. And it is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this is literally, I bought it last month, obviously when it came out, and I do really, really want to read it. I have 2 of my friends who have already read it and I need to catch up to them as well. So I think I'm quite excited to read this one and add it to my TBR. So this one, if you don't know Taylor Jenkins Reid, she writes a lot of contemporary / slightly historical novels. Daisy Jones, for instance, was set in the 60s or 70s or something like that, and I believe this one is set in the 80s. Yeah, it says Malibu, August 1983, and it's about a really famous family in the 80s in Malibu and how a bunch of events lead to this huge party where the house burns down or something. And I don't know much else about the story, but I do know that I like her writing style in general, and I've loved all of her other books that I've read so far and rated them 5 stars, so I'm hoping it's going to be the case with this one too. Right, so I now have 3 books, I need 2 more, and I'm going to pick another card. My new card is a guilty pleasure, so a reread or a historical romance or an easy / fast read. So that could be a bunch of things. Okay, and my next card is a thriller that which... So it could be a thriller that is a guilty pleasure, I guess, but I don't think I have any really that would fit that category. Could be a thriller that is set in the past. Ooh. A thriller that I almost got rid of. A thriller... that doesn't really work without knowing much about the story, but it could also be a thriller that has a title in 4 or more words. Let's see what I've got. Okay, so I'm gonna go yet again with the title thing, because if I use this prompt, a thriller that has a title in 4 or more words, I can then fit in this book, which is Good Girl, Bad Blood, and this is a sequel, and I've been wanting to read this for a while now because I did read the first book in the series, which is called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and really, really loved it. And basically this is a new story with the same characters, so I don't think it has anything to do with the story from the first book, but we are following the same main character and her trying to solve crimes. In this one, I think it has to do with her starting a podcast, I think. Yeah, it says Pip, which is her name, is not a detective anymore. Her true crime podcast about the murder case she solved last year has gone viral. Yet Pip insists her investigating days are behind her, but she will have to go back on her word when someone close to her goes missing and the police can't do anything about it. If they won't investigate, then Pip will, uncovering more of her town's dark secrets along the way, but will she find the answers before time runs out? So this is a YA thriller and it is set in England, which is quite fun for me to read because I do live in England, so I'm excited to read this one. So let me replace that card with this one, which has blue on it. Damn, that would have gone really well with the cover prompt. And let's pick a question card. A book that which, now that's an easy out. So this could be a book that has blue on it. It could be a book that is set in the past, or a book I almost got rid of, or a book that is a guilty pleasure. So reread historical, etc. Okay, let me have a look. I think I'm gonna make this work with a book that is set in the past. So this prompt, although it will also work with is a guilty pleasure, I think. The reason why is I'm gonna pick this book called The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter. And I don't know whether this really works, but I'm gonna make it work anyway because it's technically fantasy, but it is set in the past. It's just that I guess it's in a slightly alternate universe past of our own world, where we have all the daughters of a lot of famous characters. So I think it's Mary Jekyll is the one we follow, and she's obviously the daughter of Dr. Jekyll / Mr. Hyde. I think she meets a bunch of other women who are daughters of famous characters, like it also says Justine, Frankenstein, Catherine Moreau, etc. She's trying to find a murderer to make money from it because there's a big reward on it, and when she starts hunting him down, she finds his daughter and gets assisted by a bunch of other people, which I've just mentioned. So they find together through this investigation a secret society of immoral and power-crazed scientists, and it is up to the 5 women in question to stop the malicious machinations of the Société des Alchimistes. So this was basically from Meg with Books channel. She loves the series and has read it and adored it and rated it super high. So I've always wanted to read this book just because it does sound really, really fun, and from what she's talked about, it sounds like it would be highly rated. So I was expecting great things from it. And it does sound like it's going to be also like quite a fun, fast-paced read. So I do think it also fits the bill for the prompt, a guilty pleasure, because it is a book I just kind of wanted to fit, and it doesn't even fit in any of my themed videos. It's just like, I kind of want to read this at some point. So I'm gonna make it work. Okay, so here we are with the 5 books in question that I'm gonna read this month. We have The Initial Insult, Every Heart a Doorway, Malibu Rising, Good Girl Bad Blood, and The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter. That's my pile for the month of July. Okay, that's it for me. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, it really helps me, and do leave a comment as well because I always try to respond. If you want to, feel free to download the PDF of the game as well and play along with me because I always find that super fun and it's so nice when people tell me about it. And yeah, I guess subscribe to my channel, all that jazz, and I will see you guys in the next one.